Welcome to another edition of BioJacked Radio with your host Kiefer and
Alex Navarro.
And luckily today we are joined by Jim Laird, and hopefully, if we're maybe unlucky, Marci Nevin will join us a little later. How's it going, Jim?
Great, Kiefer. How are you, sir?
Good. Are we going to go to radio formality now?
Absolutely. I'm just kind of just finishing up here at J&M Strength and Conditioning for the day. It's been a long day.
Anything exciting or eventful?
Oh, we got a lot done today. We did some business planning kind of meeting stuff with Molly Galbraith and our assistant Lucy Hydrix, and like staff meeting kind of stuff, which is good. And just a really busy day, and we're just literally moved into our new facility at the beginning of November, so we're kind of throwing everything together. It's coming together nicely.
Awesome.
That's exciting. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's kind of nice being able to break in a new place.
Yes, if you're an independent contractor at a gym and you're paying a percentage or you're paying rent, you should enjoy where you're at, because, you know, I used to complain about paying $500 to Lexington Athletic Club every month for my personal training dues, and let me tell you, you open your own place, it's you're doing everything. So it's been hard, but I'm really excited, and we got some really cool stuff coming up here soon. So
that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'll have to come out and check it out sometime.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
Kiefer, what do you got going on, man?
The same old, same old. I was just actually about to comment on the paying rent, because that's where Alex is right now. She's got a pretty nice little deal. Nice little studio. Her clients come in and out. She pays her monthly dues, and she doesn't worry about anything else at all.
It's fantastic.
Ride that horse till the horse dies.
Exactly.
Because I mean, I'm checking toilet paper. I'm making sure bathrooms are clean in between classes. You know, cleaning and getting everybody on the same page, and keeping track of what clients are doing.
And you got to make sure you got to make sure the internet stays up too, right? So that Molly has something to do on Facebook.
Molly's actually doing a really good job. So she's really focused right now, and she's doing good. I'm really proud of her.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. Everybody loves Molly.
Yeah, we gotta have that emergency Facebook. You know, they can't go without Wi-Fi. And you know, we have this. I should get paid by Sonos, but we have this Sonos stereo system on Wi-Fi at our gym, and you know, Molly and I, or Lucy and Molly, know more about this stereo system than anybody in the world, because that's all I talk about. But basically, the speakers are off Wi-Fi, so you can run all the different rooms in the gym from the same iPad or iPhone. And so we have to have Wi-Fi for that. I mean, that alone is worth having the Wi-Fi for.
Nice.
Music makes a big difference in the atmosphere.
Absolutely. And you can have, like, you know, 4 or 5 different, you get up to 32 different zones that you can all have playing different songs and different music at the same time.
Oh,
all
wow.
being controlled from one iPad. And you can use Pandora, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. So Sonos, you know, send me the check, please.
Nice. Maybe you should contact them up, have them sponsor your podcast.
That'd be or maybe sponsor your podcast.
Well, yeah. Are you still keeping up with yours? I haven't actually checked on it recently.
Yours is the last one I've done, and it's like I'm literally getting between 2,000 and 5,000 listens a week of the last show we did, which is pretty cool. But, like, you know, my number one priority is the gym, and when I'm, you know, busy, we literally built a whole 3,000 square foot room in a morning when Joel came in here to town. They literally just finished painting it, and we put the floor down and built an infinity rig in, like, a morning. And literally I've been just working on getting the gym going. So when that happens, the internet stuff kind of takes a back seat. You know, that's not really my priority. So
right.
I haven't done much blog posts or radio show, you know, since for a while, because that's pretty much where my focus is.
Yeah, well, and you know, we talk about that all the time, the difference between doing and pretending that you do, and then making that transition from the real world to the internet world is difficult. when all your clients are just only online, and then everything else you do is just trying to engage an audience in some way. I'd much rather be in your position, actually.
Right. Well, I do the online thing for fun, and I do it because I'm trying to put some real information out there and hopefully help some people. I just see that there's a huge need for some sober advice. That there's so much craziness out there right now with different things, and with exercise being the cure to everything, including the IRS and genital warts. There needs to be some kind of sanity, but at the same time, we don't want to go so far down the sanity rabbit hole that we lose an edge. And I think that's one thing I'm really good at is I've got a 65-year-old lady who's been training with me for like 4 months, and I mean, she worked out at another facility 5 or 6 days a week, didn't make any progress, and she's lost like 4 clothing sizes working out 2 days a week with us. And she literally, first month was nothing but walking and just doing some mobility work, and then changing her diet, obviously, pulling her carbs out. And she deadlifted, well over 100 pounds for multiple reps the other day. We got all the gluten out of her diet. She had rheumatoid arthritis, and she's literally gone from doing aerobics every day and everything the opposite of what she should have done. 4 or 5 servings of whole grains that they were telling her to do. And she was training, 2 to 3 sessions a week with a trainer, and she works with us, twice a week and walks every day. And she's down 4 clothing sizes, and she's, doing deadlifts, and she's crawling around on the floor with her granddaughter, and it's just, it's a lot of fun. So I can take people that are, in really crappy shape and not very long period of time with some smart progressions, take somebody and make them actually do some pretty cool stuff, so it's not like we're just humming in a circle in the middle of the room. There has to be a balance between getting people prepared to do stuff and then making, long-term progress is basically quality work on the edge of one's ability. And in the beginning, the edge of one's ability might be the warm-up. But then once they master that, you've got to up the ante. And that's the problem. Most people just blast past the quality and just do tons of work, but it's beyond the edge of one's ability.
Well, oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I like staying, in communication with you and trying to get you out into the public is, you're really focused on not just like beating somebody into the ground. Like, there's somebody who's got a big following and like his posts are like, I just destroyed this person in the gym for their training sessions. Like, well, that's awesome. Did you really need to do that? And that becomes the measure of everything. Whereas you're one of the few people I know who, well, that's not true. You're one of the few people in general who has a gym who has that mentality of, let's build the person up correctly from the ground, and then, just take them, just like you said, as far as their capacity will go each time. And as long as that capacity keeps increasing, you'll take them there. If it stops, then you'll stop.
Right.
And they get excited about it then too, because they notice those small things. They become more aware of what their body can and can't do. They learn their own limits. And then when they start seeing those small progressions, then they get excited to move forward because they know that there's something to look forward to. And then when they do make those big leaps, like a deadlift, like that's a big deal, something to be excited about, especially at that age.
Well, and true. And once you find somebody that, a lot of these people, you go well beyond what they thought they were capable of. And not only that, they realize that it doesn't take that much work if they're willing to take care of themselves to a certain degree. And then also finding where they're comfortable and keeping them there. Finding where, someone that, is comfortable looking a certain way or performing a certain way, what's the minimum amount of work we have to do to stay there? And then kind of what, like Raw Bull says, let's figure out how many shenanigans we can get away with, but still stay where we want to be. And, that's one of the reasons why I like your carb back, carb black loading and carb night, is it allows people to kind of have some shenanigans, but, the whole process of it and the way it's set up, the shenanigans actually help keep you where you want to be or help you improve. So,
right. I'm with your 65-year-old client. It's perfect timing. My theory is they're always looking at all these ways, and this is totally jumping track, But they're always looking at all these ways to help women and especially osteoporosis, prevent hip breaks, things like that as they get older. And there's all these medications that increase bone density but actually don't decrease hip fractures at all. And, you know, what you're doing is, I think, the absolute cure, because the strength of the bone is 100% dependent on the strength of the muscles around it. So if you've got your client deadlifting, you know, the odds of her ever breaking her hips at whatever age, as long as she continues to keep those muscles strong, I think is almost non-existent.
Sure. Well, plus the balance issue, the fact that she's lifting weights, that kind of heavy weights, and having to stabilize herself, the chances of her falling down are a lot less. And we crawl, and we do a lot of crawling and stuff too. My 84-year-old guy who I've been training for the last 12 years now, we do a lot of that kind of stuff as well. And if he falls, you know, he can catch himself if he falls down, you know. So, and he deadlifts too, and he drags a sled, and you know, I've got all sorts of videos of him doing some really cool stuff. And he trains with me a half an hour twice a week, and he was actually in today. And you know, he maintains his strength, he's maintained his muscle mass. You know, even before I know as much as I do now about nutrition, you know, 10 years ago, I was helping. You know, I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but you know, getting diabetics to lift weights, I mean, it's almost like a miracle cure. You know, the people that I was training, you know, 10 years ago, the one guy I have, he's been training with me for almost 12 years now. He started off with me, and he literally, our first 3 workouts were 10 minutes long because he was in such bad shape. And he ended up deadlifting well over 500 pounds. He's a state powerlifting record. He just one day decided he wanted to do a powerlifting meet. He's actually wants to do another meet, just deadlift. But you know, his doctor is just dumbfounded. He didn't know why his blood sugar was so good. He's like, he was totally confused what was going on. You know, they got him off metformin and everything else just from the strength training. And of course, the advice that his doctor had given him at the time was he needed to start a marathon running. You know.
Right. Oh gosh.
Which luckily he ran into me.
Seriously, thank God he found you.
Well, yeah, I just wish I knew how this advice comes up, because, you know, we've at least known about GLUT4 transporters for, I'd say, a decade. And we've known that endurance training will increase the concentration of GLUT4 carriers, but it decreases their sensitivity to insulin. So you're basically shooting yourself in the foot by doing endurance training if you're a diabetic. Whereas we've also known that weight training makes them translocate without insulin. And yet you will not hear a doctor recommend weight training to diabetics. And I've even heard doctors say you need to stop all the weight training. Right. You know, the education, we probably don't need to start on that rant, because I get fired up every time.
I've had doctors actually tell female clients of mine to stop weight training because it'll break it's too hard on their bones. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Like you've got osteoporosis. Like, you don't need to be strength training because your bones might break. I was just like, I'm not having them, try and squat 1,000 pounds here. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We've actually got Marci in here, but for some reason she's texting on her phone instead of participating in the call.
Probably because I'm talking.
Which is like her cue to get up and walk over, and it's still not working amazingly enough.
She's making her way.
Yeah, we're going to have to find some other way to shame her into getting on the microphone and participating in this call.
Here we go.
I didn't realize I was supposed to come on. I'm sorry. Here I am.
There we go.
Who am I talking to?
Jim Laird.
Oh, hi, Jim.
How are you, Marci?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Long day, but I'm good.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, can you hear her okay?
She sounds like she's like in the bottom of the Grand Canyon, but I can hear her.
Is that better?
Still in the canyon.
Oh.
Hold on, let's see if we can get this figured out.
Jim's a little soft for me.
Well, it's good you have your headphones turned down. Talk again, Marci.
Hello? Can you hear me?
It's weird.
I can hear her, but I can barely hear her.
He's kind of faint for me, too.
Talk, Marci.
How was your train ride over?
My train ride over was okay. I really hate Bart. But after last time's fiasco, it took me 2.5 hours to get home.
Oh,
I decided I'll take Bart from now on.
Was that better, Jim?
I can hear her. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to suffer through her lower than normal voice for whatever reason.
That's usually my problem.
I know. I'm actually talking into the microphone this time.
That's all right. It'll force me to pay close attention.
There you go.
Yeah, whatever works. So, how was your day, Marci? Anything interesting?
Nothing interesting. Just, at work early this morning. Yeah, nothing too exciting, unfortunately. Ready for Christmas.
I know why you can't hear Marci, Jim. We're not actually technically piping her into Skype.
Oh, there you go.
So that's my bad, and I actually don't even know how to... Hold on. Actually, I can figure that out. So you guys... Alex, chat, talk.
What are your plans for Christmas, Jim? Do you do something big with your family?
The same thing they are every year. Waffle House and whatever Chinese sushi place is open.
Nice.
Waffle House.
That sounds like a great combination.
It does.
Yeah. It is. My family's all in northern Canada, and most of them. One of my sisters is in BC. My other brother's in Fargo, North Dakota. So those are all places that I do not want to go.
That makes sense.
I just stay where I am.
Good call.
What part of Canada?
It's a very good call.
Jim, what part of Canada?
My parents and my one sister live in Edmonton, Alberta. They actually live in Fort Saskatchewan, which is about 40 minutes outside of Edmonton.
So it's probably pretty cold there right now.
It's
Cool.
a little bit nipply, yes.
Does it snow in Kentucky this time of year?
It snows a bit in Edmonton, but it's sunny though. Like the problem with Lexington is it's like Seattle, and you want to Kurt Cobain yourself. And, so I go lay in the tanning bed like 4 to 6 minutes a day to keep myself above ground. So
That's a great idea.
Yep. Don't blame me for that.
it's a lifesaver. I seasonal defective disorder, or what's the technical term for it? But seasonal whatever disorder.
Yeah, no, you
terrible.
were right.
I finally, like a year or two ago, I figured out I needed to lay in the tanning bed, and that was a miracle cure for me.
How did you discover that? Did someone recommend it to you, or?
I just reading and I was like, every winter I feel like I want to off myself, So I was just listening, to some different things, and I was like vitamin D and then sunshine. I was like, oh, that might have something to do with it. So I just jumped in the tanning bed, and sure enough, like in 2 sessions, I felt like a new person.
Right. I've never looked into it, but do you make sure it's the UVB bulbs?
Yeah, I will. We're actually thinking about getting, Dr. McCullough has a tanning bed that has no x-rays.
Oh.
We're thinking about getting one for the gym. So.
Yeah, because I think the UVA bulbs don't actually have the vitamin D building capacity of the UVB bulbs. I've never actually looked into it. I just remember reading that somewhere in some paper randomly.
Yeah, I'll look into that. But whatever I take a lot of vitamin D2 in the winter, but whatever it does, it's the difference between me wanting to run my head through a wall and being happy. So.
I'm sure everybody prefers the happy Jim.
Yes, the run the head through the wall, Jim, is not a very nice place to be around.
So
luckily, I can hide him back.
So we usually, whenever Jim's on the phone, he usually comes up with some scenario, and then we try to figure out what would be the best idea for that person. Do you have one in mind, Jim?
Let me think about this.
Yeah, I caught you off guard because I told you it was free form. Now I'm acting like you're prepared.
I actually have a kid that I'm working with that I wanted to ask you about the other day, so we kind of talked to him about him a little bit. It's kind of interesting. But this kid needs to gain some serious weight, and his dad wants him to strength train before practices and games. So if I've got him doing the best he can as far as eating, proteins and fats during the day and vegetables, and I've got him eating a little bit of carbs during the day. But what should he do, like, after his weight training session, to get him to train if he's lifting before a game or a practice? What kind of stuff does he need to eat to make sure he's got enough sugar, or enough glycogen to play, but not, put him into a hypoglycemic state?
Yeah, he needs to have a pretty substantial source, especially for a game, some kind of pre-mixed carb drink that he can sip through that entire game. It's kind of like, it's just like the people who do the marathon weight training sessions,
Right.
usually 30 minutes into it, they've got a workout that lasts 3 hours. I have them sipping on something that pretty much lasts them for the rest of the workout. And the performance differences are ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, I started eating some carbs while I've been lifting, and it's been a big improvement. So.
Yeah, so he just needs to make sure that stuff is on tap and available and not Gatorade.
No, Gatorade sucks. I tell kids all the time, if you're going to drink it, at least water it down,
Yeah, or just flush it down the toilet. It's probably the best use for it.
That too, but you know how these kids are, because Michael Jordan endorses it. It's amazing. So.
Right. It's
funny because this kid's been trying to gain weight for years and years and years. And, his total calorie intake per day, if it wasn't for a pizza that he ate, his total calorie intake per day was like 1,500 calories. It was all pretzels and, maybe he was eating 70 grams of protein a day.
Jeez.
And I was just like, man, like, dude, you've got to, like, up your ante here.
Right.
And of course, his dad wants him to do more strength training, more lifting weights, more intense training. And I'm like, God, dude, with the pizza, he was eating about 2,000 or 2,300 calories a day. I'm like, you need to be eating like 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day, and you need to be like eating mashed potatoes from the minute you step into the door until the minute you go to bed at night.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of carbs he has to eat to rebuild and refuel at night is just unbelievable.
Right. Well, and then the protein intake that needs to come along with that. I mean, 70 grams a day for somebody who's trying to train, growing still, increasing their bone density, trying to increase their muscular size and density, and 70 grams a day. Seriously? That's what an emaciated marathon runner needs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is he? I mean, I'm surprised he's not hungry all the time. Or is he?
He's a really finicky, picky eater, and he doesn't like to eat a lot of food. And of course, his breakfast was always like 3 or 4, pancakes for breakfast. I'm like, dude, like, you're setting yourself up. Like, are you like falling asleep in class? He's like, yeah, how'd you know? I was like, dude, all your carbs first thing in the morning. I was like, let's fix that. It's just amazing how, if we would just go back to the way our great-great-grandparents ate. How did Kiefer, there's a question for you. How did we fall away from what our grandparents did so far, like, bacon, eggs, and liver, and, all these things now, butter, that we're figuring out, hey, that stuff is actually really good for us. How did we get so far away from that?
A lot of it, I mean, those were the changes that happened in the 50s and 60s with, Ansel Keys, who decided that, fat and cholesterol and eating that was the reason that the few cases, that's what's amazing, is we were only looking at the time of a few cases of obesity. He just decided that's why they were fat and that all Americans needed to never eat fat. And Gary Taubes has a great synopsis of the history of this, but the basics are that we started making these recommendations because of Ansel Keys, and his research was total crap. I mean, it was basically made up. And he got these policies pushed through because he just really believed it. He had no evidence to support it. He just really believed it, and he got it pushed all the way up through the highest levels of government. And then the obesity epidemic got worse. So the U.S. government made a decision, and it was the National Institute of Health. Their decision came down to this. Well, we can spend roughly $500 million over the next 15 years studying which is the correct diet. What is it, low fat or is it the high fat? What we used to eat. Or we can spend $200 million on an ad campaign to convince America that we're right regardless of whether we're wrong, regardless of what they see in the mirror. So they decided to spend the $200 million because it was half the cost to convince America that the reason they were fat is because they were eating too much fat, even though they were getting fatter every year. That's literally how we got on this road of shifting our diet from what our great-great-grandparents used to eat, which, if you go back to the days of farming, they'd fire it up with some sausage if they had it and eggs.
Yep.
That was breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, you look at the late 1800s, everything had butter on it. They used butter on salad dressing with butter. They put butter as a salad dressing.
Yeah.
Which is a great idea.
Butter was in everything. I think they probably used butter as deodorant, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, which actually, you want to hear a funny fact, that should actually work. They're always trying to figure out why. Some of the studies out there are awesome because they reveal just this cool information. And one of the things I saw is they were trying to figure out why your armpits stink, but yet your forehead never does. And I know this sounds kind of weird.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It is.
You have way too much free time.
Right. So, but they took the bacteria that produces the stink in your armpits and they actually put it onto people's foreheads. And it died almost right away. And what they found was the oil content, your forehead is so oily compared to the environment in your armpit that the bacteria can't survive in oil. So, it's a funny joke, but I would bet that butter constantly applied to the armpits would work as a pretty effective deodorant.
Can I chime in?
I always knew I was smart.
Got something
and that's
to
funny
say?
because, they're always having these, like...
Go ahead, Marci. Marci's having a hard time interjecting over here.
I'm sorry.
So I'm like really kind of anal about what I put on my body, like chemicals and stuff like that. I use coconut oil for deodorant and some baking soda, and it works fabulously.
Yep, you probably don't even need the baking soda.
I probably don't. It's kind of irritating. I just, I've actually done both, and I don't really see a difference either way, but the coconut oil actually works really well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because everybody's amazed because I don't have body odor. It is one of the weirdest things, and Alex can attest to this.
It's very strange.
Yeah,
and frustrating.
Right.
Because I want to not have to worry about that.
Not that it happens very often, but if I have to go a day without showering, even if I've worked out, like I don't have body odor. It's really weird. And if anybody knows, if anybody knows anything about Sicilians, then you know that we're some of the oiliest creatures in the world. We probably beat out pigs, without a doubt. So, I think that's why I don't have any body odor is, those Sicilian genes that keep me pumping out oil like a freaking oil well. I just literally...
Of course, all the beauty products, like, take the oil off your skin, of course.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Exactly.
See, I always like to gross people out and tell them that actually olive oil from Sicily isn't from olives. They just scrape down the Sicilians and put it in bottles.
I'm never going to look at it the same again.
I know, it's not very appetizing.
Well, but see, that's a good way to get people... Yeah, well, it's a good way to keep people from eating olive oil because there's really no point.
Well, there you go.
It's too bad because I actually like olive oil.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I mean, not as much as coconut oil, but I enjoy it on some things.
See, I like almond oil.
Oh, I haven't tried
Yeah,
that.
that's
That one
good.
is actually...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, giving that up was difficult. I really like almond oil, but that's why I cook everything in butter. That's pretty much the only oil that I think tastes better.
Yeah.
Have you ever had French fries cooked in duck fat?
No.
That sounds amazing.
Yes. You need to. It's like one of the best things on earth.
Where did you
I'm
get
like,
this?
where are you going to eat? Is this at the Waffle House?
No, I wish it was the Waffle House. No, but that's the way they used to cook French fries. They used to cook in duck fat.
Huh.
Yeah, and Jim, I know you know who Chris Kresser is, right?
Yes, of course.
I read one of his articles. It was a couple weeks ago when he was talking about how he cooks pretty much everything in duck fat. So his starches, like he's talking about yucca root or something like that, and then all of his vegetables he roasts in duck fat. So we'll have to give that a try sometime.
It's on the same level as bacon. It's like on that level. French fries in duck fat are like one of the greatest things ever.
I had no idea. Now, there's, I know, what's his name? The Bulletproof Exec, Dave Asprey, who, I love the guy for his zeal and, he puts out he makes a lot of really good recommendations, but I can't remember why, but he has a big problem with fowl fat. And I just can't remember why. Have you ever run across that, Jim? Do you remember anybody talking about that?
Do you
Yeah,
think
no, me either. He's the only one I've heard say
I
it.
know is from growing up in Canada that if you don't want to eat any kind of bird that's been eating pine needles, especially if you shoot it and you open its gizzard up, like that's not a good thing. Like essence of pine needles, that's about the only thing I know about stuff like that.
Interesting.
I mean, could it have something
So
to
always shoot birds that are not around pine trees.
Okay, good piece of survival information during the zombie apocalypse.
Oh God, like pine needle flavored pheasant is not good.
Oh, yeah, that sounds unpleasant.
I do have a client who's a very big hunter, and he shot and killed his duck last week and ate it for dinner that night. So I'll have to pass that tip on to him.
What about the duck fat or about the pine needles?
About the pine needles.
Get your shotgun pellets out too. Like there's nothing worse than biting into a shotgun pellet. that's really bad too. So not good.
Back to the duck fat. Could it have something to do with like the omega-6 content?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, does fowl fat have a high omega-6 content?
I know chicken fat does.
I don't know enough about duck fat.
Yeah.
I'm not unfortunately an expert in duck fat. Jim will defer to you.
That would just be my only speculation.
I have no idea. I'd have to go look at what Chris Kresser would have to say about it. I'm sure Chris cooks everything in duck fat. It's probably not going to have that high of omega-6.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's real big on omega-3 having a balance and everything. So I'm sure it can't be that out of whack, or he would be eating everything with duck fat.
True.
Well, maybe that's kind of the key. Maybe it's that normal factory-raised chickens have a high omega-6 content, and so free range.
Just like every animal that's raised in the cage.
Right. Well, yeah, because we feed them corn and we feed them all vegetation that is nothing but omega-6 fatty acids, so their bodies don't really have a choice.
Drywall chip and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, one of my videos recently, I've been doing those quick tips on YouTube, and one that got this one person just incredibly inflamed was, I was talking about using vegetables on carb night and the ultra low carb portion of carb backload, and I said, to be honest, there's no research to say that you need fibrous vegetables. There's just not. There's all these, crappy speculations. Oh, well, if you give somebody hyper dosages of this one phytochemical from this plant, then this happens. And even those studies are pretty suspect. And he just said, you can't live without vegetables because you need all these enzymes and your body just can't process anything. But, it's like for some reason people have no idea that there was an entire culture of people, the Inuit Indians, who literally had no access to any vegetation whatsoever except lichen, which is not something that they ate very much of, and they ate nothing but like whale blubber and seal meat.
Like 95% fat.
Yeah, and they actually were the epitome of health until we introduced them to Western foods like vegetables and grains and starches. So, people are so stupid. How does that happen?
Right. Weston A. Price wrote a great book, and he talks about all the cultures, the Catawbans, the hunter-gatherer tribes in South America, the Fijians, the different Asian cultures, and all these different cultures eat a different ratio of carbs and fat and all that kind of stuff. But the common things that these cultures did not eat, that as soon as they were introduced, they got heart disease, tooth decay, cancer, diabetes, was basically refined flour, refined sugar, refined dairy, and refined salt. As soon as those four things came into those cultures, it absolutely devastated them. Because I believe the Catawbans ate majority carbohydrate. They ate a lot of tubers, and they drank blood, and they ate a lot of milk and cheese type stuff. But then the Fijians, they're going to eat a lot more fruit because you're in the tropics. Less animal products, but they still had animal products. And then you got the Inuits who ate 95% fat, but they all were healthy and they all lived a long time. But so he looked at all these common factors, and he showed pictures of how their bone structure and their face changed over several generations when they introduced these foods.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. That's one reason that, in general, Asian people have a much shorter jawbone than other parts of the world is because they've been on a carbohydrate-based diet much longer, which stunts the growth of your entire jaw structure, which I found to be very interesting. And that's where I kind of got my take. If you look at, I mean, I actually, when I was first researching Carb Night, or actually the book before Carb Night, I was trying to figure out like what was the best diet, because I wanted Carb Night to have a follow-up that was, here is the diet plan that you can live with for the rest of your life. If you eat these foods every day, you'll be the epitome of health. So I was looking at the China Oxford Campbell study. I was looking at all these studies in the Mediterranean, Chile, Okinawa, Japan, all these populations all over the world, tribal studies on what they were eating and what foods they would pass up in times of energy deprivation. And the one common factor, and that's all the way up to modern times, is how processed the food is. If you structure your food pyramid so that the bottom two levels are meat and vegetables that you don't cook to eat, you basically cannot get diseased. I mean, it's going to be extremely rare in a population that limits their diet to those two levels. Once you start to raise above that is when you see increases and stuff. And I was going to write this post on my site soon. It's like, the truth behind cancer. Everybody wants to become vegetarian or vegan, or it must be meat, or it's all these things. Well, one thing that if a cancer cell happens to form and gets a hold, one thing that makes cancer continue to grow is stimulation of the mTOR receptor that I talk about all the time for muscle growth, because it's important for any cell to grow. But what's interesting is there's only two dietary stimulants that I know of, like food-wise, that can stimulate the mTOR pathway independently, and that's leucine and glucose. Glucose is a powerful stimulator, so you've got people all over the world that are constantly shoving their face with starch, which means if cancer in any cancer cells whatsoever get a hold, you're telling them to grow constantly. And it's asinine, and these are just facts. We know this absolutely, and yet you can't get that information to people to make wise decisions about their diets. Like, you're basically giving yourself fuel every day to make sure that if you do get some mutant cells, that you'll get cancer. But yet we don't want to, no, because carbs, we've been told carbs are the only thing that you should be eating for health for, since the 60s. So what is that, over 50 years now? So no, we'd rather people just keep dying than, just finally admit, hey, we made a bad choice.
Oh, did we lose Jim?
And we lost Jim. I hope he was on there for some of that rant. Uh-oh. No internet connection.
Did it just die?
Yeah. Somebody...
Crap.
Aww.
Poor Jim.
Aww. Oh, that's a good face over there to finish. She looks a little sad.
Yeah. Mary, can you hop on my computer and text Jim? Tell him we're having internet issues. I think there's a little window up, and the last thing I said to him is calling now. If you don't mind. Thanks. So, unfortunately, we've lost Jim. I don't know if we're going to get him back for this show. But that was about an hour on the phone with him. So,
yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, which we're trying to get these down to about an hour in length. So that wasn't so bad. So what do you say we just wrap it up, everybody?
That works.
Okay.
All right, so this is Kiefer with DangerouslyHardcore.com, another episode of BioJacked Radio.
Alex Navarro here. Have a good night or
The
day.
sexy heroine of fitness. I don't know why she will not use her moniker that she was so proud of having in the intro of this show.
It's hard for me to say myself. It makes me blush.
Okay. And special guest in studio,
Marci Nevin Curtis.
Nevin Curtis. It sounds like you're bipolar.
Well, I'm still not technically a Curtis, so
You're on your way.
I'm on my way.
There.
You're not technically a Curtis, like the name change just hasn't gone through?
They haven't sent us our marriage license.
Oh,
that's kind of important.
interesting.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little upset about that. But so Marci Nevin for now.
Soon enough.
All right, everybody. We'll Well, you'll hear us next time and see us now, too, with BioJacked TV on YouTube. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.